Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Chris Can. I have a problem. My Switch overheats after playing for about 30 minutes, and Nintendo wants over $150 and 3 weeks to fix it. I'm not about that, so I spent $25 on a new fan, some screwdrivers, and we're gonna fix it ourselves. Now that my homage to Babish is done, let's get down to business. I figured that the issue was the fan after playing for a little while, and the back of the Switch was getting really hot. I actually played for long enough and I get a heat error and the entire thing would just shut down. I was feeling for exhaust coming out of the heat exchange here, and I would flip it upside down because normally heat rises, and the only reason I'd feel any heat down here is if there's a fan blowing it. Well, no heat, no fan. You could also just put your ear up to it. If you don't hear a fan, the fan's not working. First things first, the kit I bought is down in the description if you've got the same problem as I have. It's not an affiliate link or anything, so you'll just have to subscribe or like the video to show your support. Thank you. I also did this live on Twitch at ChrisCanTV without any instructions, so I'll cut out all the fumbling. The kit I have comes with a fan, the thermal paste and a little plunger syringe, a plastic thing to pry stuff if you also bite your fingernails, and 2 screwdrivers. The red one is Y-shaped, called a tri-wing, and the blue one is the standard Phillips, which is X-shaped. I also used a lockpick to pry up really little things, again, because of fingernails, but you can use any small rigid tool like a small flathead screwdriver or a fingernail if you have those. I did all this stuff haphazardly, so I'll get it out in front. Power down the Switch so you don't electrocute yourself. Pop off the Joy-Cons from each side. Take out any game cartridge you might have. Eject the micro SD card too. And then get a piece of paper or some envelopes or just some way to make note of all of the little screws and little parts you're going to be taking off. There are like 50 things to remove and put back, so you better get organized early. Flip the Switch around so that it's facing down with the game cartridge slot away from you and the USB-C port towards you. Unscrew all 4 screws on the back of the Switch. Then lift the stand to reveal another screw you'll remove. It's incredibly small. There are 2 more screws at the bottom near the USB-C connection, and 1 more at the top near the heat exhaust grill. Finally, remove the middle screw on the Joy-Con rails on each side. The other 4 screws, you just leave them in. It was at this point my chat reminded me that I hadn't written down what any of these parts were, so if you're like me and you forgot to write anything down, go ahead and take a sec and write down what you've taken out so far. You should be able to find the seam to remove the back now. Go gently and try to lift on each side rather than just rip it up from one edge. The plastic pry tool might be helpful here. You'll see the fan in the middle top of the console and a heat shield, heat sink thing covering it. Now you can unscrew the 6 screws holding the metal cover in place. But first, you gotta remove the micro SD slot at the bottom. There's just 1 small screw here, and then it's a gentle pull up. There's this little squishy pad that connects the slot to the main console's green board, so lift the whole thing up vertically to disconnect it correctly. Pulling it sideways might rip the connection. Then use the pry tool to lift the cover off. It'll have a little bit of resistance because there's some thermal paste on the back and this little small squishy foam piece holding it on a little extra. So when you lift it off, lay down the shield so the paste is up, and we'll go clean it off later. With the heat shield off, get your bearings. The battery is the large black square on the side. The fan is still the thing in the middle that spins. And there's a copper bar crossing from the CPU up to the heat exhaust grill. First things first, disconnect the battery. Shocks are bad for your health. This connector comes off straight up, so just leave it disconnected and hanging out. You don't need to take the whole battery out. Next up, the copper heat pipe comes off. There are 3 screws to remove at the bottom near the CPU. For some reason, the heat pipe is also stuck to the fan with some sticky foam pieces. While I'm sure there's a way to take them off carefully, I couldn't figure it out and just ripped it off. In all honesty, this part took me at least 10 minutes and then I just gave up. It hasn't caused any problems yet, but you may want to be a little bit more careful than I was. Once the foam bits are off, just lift the heat pipe straight up and out. With the heat pipe out, you can clean off the thermal paste on both sides and the CPU block. You should just use the wipes in the kit, or buy some alcohol wipes for computers to do the same thing. The goal is to get as much of the CPU paste off as you can. The more you get off, the better you can get a new layer back on, but if you can't get it all off, it's not a huge deal. Next, the cartridge reader is covering a cable and a screw that's keeping the fan attached, so it has to go as well. It gets a little trickier here because there's a ribbon cable on the side of the reader that has a crazy latching mechanism, so you're going to have to flip up a little bar that comes across the connector to unlock it before pulling the cable out. Make sure the bar is flipped up or else the cable will break the connector. Once that's out, there's another small green piece connected by a brown connector that you can pull straight up to disconnect. One screw's left on the green board and two more on a plastic bracket at the top. You can then pull up the cartridge reader all together. So at this point, you've removed everything you need to get access to the fan. It's probably easiest to disconnect the ribbon cable first. There's another bar latch system, so lift the bar, pull back the cable to disconnect. Then remove the 3 screws holding the fan in place, and you are officially halfway done. Once I'd pulled the fan out, I really needed to take a 7th inning stretch since I've been working on this for about an hour. I highly recommend it. When you're ready, let's put everything back. Screw the new fan into place with the 3 standoff screws, and then work on the connector. The ribbon cable from the fan now has to slide into the bar latch system again, so lift the bar and very gently push the cable into position. Once it's in, close the bar. Now we can replace the cartridge reader. Place the reader into position and screw the green board down. The black plastic bracket goes on next with the nub facing down into the console and the screw hole with the corner missing on the left side. I promise it'll make sense when you're doing it. Screw that plastic piece in and snap the green connector down, carefully. Then you'll have to deal with another finicky lift bar connector, so lift the connector bar, slide the ribbon cable in, and close the bar. It's probably a good time to get a thermal paste going now. This is vitally important because the paste helps heat from the CPU and the GPU transfer to the copper pipe and the metal backplate, so that then the fan can blow a bunch of hot air away. A hot CPU means the switch shuts down, which is what our problem was at the start, actually. Gently squeeze the thermal paste onto the CPU block. I like using this little X pattern with dots on the sides. You can also just do an X or a big blob in the middle. You can also choose to smear the paste around with a little spatula in the kit. There's some artistry involved in this, but you do you. The goal is to cover the block with a thin layer of paste once the heat pipe is back on and not have the paste fall into the green board. Just get that accomplished. Screw the heat pipe back in, smushing the paste onto the CPU block. While we've got everything out, you should probably just clean off the backplate too so we can replace all the thermal paste there as well. Scrape off whatever you can and use a wipe to get the rest. Since the backside just lays against the heat shield, drawing a little bit of the heat off the pipe and onto the metal plate, you can go a little heavier on the paste here. I opted to draw a line of thermal paste along the heat pipe. Variety's the spice of life, right? I nearly forgot this step, but chat caught it for me. Place the battery back in by pushing the connector straight down into the socket. That would have been a pain. Then you can lay the heat shield on top of all of the components. So this is going to smush the paste against the heat pipe again. Then you screw in all 6 screws to secure the shield in place. Next, connect the card reader by pressing the foam pad into the empty slot in the heat shield. It should get an audible click when it's all the way in. I couldn't imagine doing this wrong and having to do it twice. Oh, it says it doesn't have a micro SD card. Uh-oh. Also, don't forget to screw it in. Finally, let's get this back cover back on. Put all the screws back on the Joy-Con rails, bottom, top, micro SD, and back. Then put your micro SD and game cartridge in and boot it up. Make sure that your games load from both the cartridge and the SD card. I have a link to the kit I bought down in the description below, along with a link to my Twitch channel, which you should follow for gaming, chatting, and more odd ideas like this one. While you're down there, click the subscribe button. It would help out a lot. Finally, leave a comment to ask any questions or tell me how your fix went. Either way, I hope I'll see you in the next video, because it turns out this time, Chris can.